Have you ever noticed how some people freeze when dialing a number, as if the phone were a portal to a universe of discomfort? While most people send voice messages without blinking or resolve everything via WhatsApp in seconds, they delay, make excuses, or simply disappear when it comes to calling someone. At first glance, it may just seem like laziness or a lack of social skills, but behind this apparently simple behavior there is a web of psychological reasons that reveal a lot about how these people see the world and themselves. Before you think this is just millennial nonsense, no, there's nothing wrong with preferring the silence of texts to the hustle and bustle of a call. Not everyone needs to adapt to the fast pace of live conversations, with their awkward pauses and pressure for immediate responses. For many, the phone is not a tool for connection but a minefield of unspoken expectations. And, if we stop to reflect, this makes perfect sense. Just imagine, a call requires you to be present, body and soul, with no time to edit your words or delete a typo. There's no quick Google before responding, no room to reflect on the right tone. Everything happens in real time, and this, for those who value control, can be terrifying. Perhaps, at some point in their lives, these people have been caught off guard by a difficult question, judged by their tone of voice, or even humiliated for not knowing what to say. The brain then creates a defense mechanism: if I don't care, I don't run the risk of making a mistake. And so, the phone turns into an almost cursed object, loaded with memories of vulnerability. But it's not just fear of making mistakes. For the more introspective, a phone call represents an invasion of privacy. While a message can be read and responded to in one's own time, a call demands undivided attention, as if the outside world is saying, "Stop everything and give me your energy now." For anyone who needs space to process emotions or simply hates interruptions, this sounds like silent aggression. Not surprisingly, many of these people are highly sensitive or work creatively, activities that depend on a flow of concentration that a phone call can destroy in seconds. And there's more. In an era where everything is recorded, reviewed and archived, the telephone is one of the last strongholds of impermanence. There is no way to go back on what was said, nor to erase a mistake. For generations who grew up with the illusion that everything can be edited, photos, texts, even memories, the irrevocability of a live conversation is frightening. It's as if, by responding, they are taking an unnecessary risk in a world where even errors can be erased with a click. But here's the fascinating thing: this aversion to connections often hides a depth that few see. Phone avoiders often value quality over quantity in interactions. Do you prefer a well-thought-out message to a hasty conversation, a face-to-face meeting than a "Hi, how are you?" out of obligation? For them, silence is not empty, it is respect for their own time and that of others. And in a noisy world where everyone talks at once, this choice can be an act of silent resistance. If you identify with this, no, you are not antisocial, nor lazy. Maybe I just discovered that the best conversations are not those that happen out of obligation, but those that happen at the right time. What if the world insists on thinking you're weird for not answering your phone? Well, let them think that. After all, those who really need you will know how to reach you, be it with a message, a coffee, or even, perhaps, a handwritten letter. And now tell me, do you also avoid calls? What bothers you most about them? Comment here or, if you prefer, send me a message, without rushing, of course. And if this text made sense, gone to you, share it with those who also turn up their nose when the phone rings. Until the next reflection. Oh, and if they call you while you're reading this, leave it in voicemail. The world can wait. Silence as a superpower: why some people prefer emptiness to noise, and why it's revolutionary. Have you ever noticed how the world seems to be afraid of silence? Meetings are filled with forced small talks, family dinners become competitions for who can talk the loudest, and even elevators have background music as if the 30-second gap was unbearable. But while the majority rush to fill the holes of stillness, there is a group that not only tolerates, but also actively seeks out these spaces. And no, they are not antisocial. They are architects of meaning. Think about it. When was the last time you really heard silence? Not that moment when the playlist ends and you run to change songs, but a conscious, chosen, almost sacred silence. For those who cultivate it, it is not an absence, it is an empty stage where ideas rehearse before entering the scene. It is the interval between notes that gives meaning to the music. It's the white space on the paper that allows the handwriting to breathe. But here's the paradox. In a society that confuses productivity with noise, choosing silence is an act of rebellion. Those who do so are often labeled cold, distant, or even arrogant. Why don't you answer my messages right away? Why don't you comment on my photos? Why are you so quiet in a group? As if the speed of the response measured the value of the relationship. But what if the opposite is true? What if those who are slow to respond are actually giving their word the weight it deserves? The science behind chosen silence. Neuroscientists discovered that the resting brain, one that is not being bombarded by stimuli, activates the default mode network, a neural network associated with creativity, self-knowledge, and problem-solving. In other words, when you're doing nothing, your brain is doing the most important work. It's no surprise that geniuses like Einstein and Newton had solitary routines and long periods of silent reflection. But there is more. A Harvard University study revealed that people who tolerate silence better tend to have greater emotional intelligence. Why? Because the discomfort with emptiness often comes from the need for external validation, and those who don't depend on it to feel complete develop a rare emotional self-sufficiency. It's no wonder that history's greatest leaders, artists, and philosophers were known for their taste for strategic solitude. The 3 types of silence, and what they reveal about you. If you identify with this preference for stillness, you probably fit into one or more of these profiles. 1. The strategic observer. Typical phrase, I prefer listening to talking. That way, I learn more. Hidden trait, not shy, selective. You know that words have a cost, and you only spend yours when the return is worth it. Risk can be seen as calculative, when in fact it is just economical with its energy. 2. The creator of worlds. Typical phrase, I need silence to think. Hidden trait, your brain works like a laboratory of ideas, and the noise is like throwing sand into a clockwork. Risk, when interrupted, you may react angrily, not out of harm, but because you have literally lost the thread of a brilliant thought. 3. The everyday philosopher. Typical phrase, sometimes silence says more than any words. Hidden trait, sees layers of meaning where others see only emptiness. For you, a look, a pause or a sigh can be unspoken poems. Risk, may be misinterpreted as distant when in fact you are processing life in 4K while others watch in black and white. Why the world is afraid of your silence. The truth is that silence is uncomfortable because it exposes. In a culture that preaches if it's not online, it doesn't exist, those who choose discretion unmask the fragility of constant noise. After all, if you don't need to post to feel valid, what does that say about those who do? Here's the dirty secret. Excess noise is an emotional crutch. We talk non-stop so as not to hear our own thoughts. We fill schedules so as not to face emptiness. We send instant messages to avoid dealing with the anxiety of waiting. But you chose to walk without crutches. And that, my friend, is threatening for those who still depend on them. How to navigate a noisy world without losing your essence. If you are part of the team that values the quality of interactions over quantity, here are some strategies to avoid feeling like an ET on a planet of influencers. Heavy checkmark, turn your silence into a trademark. Instead of apologizing for taking a long time to respond, admit it with pride. I'm one of those people who prefers a thoughtful response to a quick one. If it's urgent, call me, otherwise, wait for me to get back to you with quality. Effect, people will start to value your words, because they will know that they have weight. Heavy checkmark, create islands of silence in your day. Block 30 minutes a day with no screens, no music, no conversations. Use this time to observe, the light in the glass of water, the sound of rain. Reflect, no rush, no judgment. Let your mind wander, this is when the best ideas appear. Tip, start with 5 minutes and gradually increase. Your brain will thank you. Heavy checkmark, choose your battles, and your noises. It's not about avoiding all noise, but about healing what noises you let in. Example. Avoid superficial conversations that will drain your energy. Make space for deep dialogues, music that uplifts, laughter that comes from the soul. Heavy checkmark, find your tribe. You're not weird, you're just rare. Look for people who also value depth over performance. Where to find them? In bookstores, quiet cafes, meditation groups, or even on social media. Yes, they exist. Search for hashtags like #slowliving or #deepthinkers. Silence as an act of resistance. In a world that monopolizes attention and rewards hyperactivity, choosing stillness is a political gesture. It is to say, I will not surrender to the anxiety of the immediate response. My thoughts deserve time to mature. My relationships deserve more than likes, they deserve presence. And when someone calls you antisocial for not answering the phone or being slow to respond, remember, they are confusing introversion with indifference, and selectivity with rudeness. But you know the truth, it's not that you don't like people. You just like them in a way the world has forgotten how to, with time, attention, and silence. A question for you to take. If you could eliminate one type of noise from your life today, what would it be? Cell phone notifications that steal your attention? The empty conversations that exhaust your patience? The voice in your head that says you should be doing more? Comment here, or send me a message, no rush. And if this text resonated with you, share it with those who also think that the world talks too much and listens too little. Oh, and what if someone calls while you're reading this? Leave it in voicemail. Some things, like this moment of reflection, can't wait, but the world can. Until the next silent break. Milky Way. Silence as resistance. Why the world is afraid of those who don't chase validation. There is a quiet rebellion going on behind the scenes of modern life. While most people scream for attention, like, comment and share as if their existence depended on an algorithm, you are there, quiet, observing. Not because he has nothing to say, but because he chose not to say it at any cost. And that bothers you. Very. People don't know how to deal with those who don't play the visibility game. When you delay responding to a message, ignore a WhatsApp group or simply don't post anything for weeks, the system goes into panic. Is everything okay? It's gone. Where are you? As if silence were a symptom of illness, not a sovereign choice. But here's the truth that few admit. The world is not worried about you. He's preoccupied with the idea that you don't need him. The anxiety of invisibility, or why its calm scares so much. Imagine a party. Everyone talking at the same time, laughing loudly, taking photos to prove they are there. You're in the corner, listening. Not because he is antisocial, but because he prefers quality over quantity. And then someone notices. Why don't you say anything? Translation: why don't you validate my need for noise? Modern society has trained people to fear silence. He was associated with lack of interest. If you don't comment, you don't care. Arrogance: do you think you're better? Depression: is everything okay? But what if your silence is just that, silence? A space to breathe, think, exist without performing? The problem is not you. It is a world that has confused communication with noise. What they don't tell you about those who don't participate. 1. You are not antisocial. It's selective. It's not that you don't like people. You don't like watered-down versions of people. You'd rather have a 2-hour conversation with someone who understands you than 20 empty messages in the family group. 2. Your delay is not negligence. It's respect. When you respond to a message days later, it's not because you forgot. It's because you chose to give that person an answer that was worth their time, not a knee-jerk reaction. 3. Your absence from networks is not loneliness. It's autonomy. You don't need to prove that you're happy. You just are. While others collect likes, you collect moments that don't need an audience. 4. Your silence is not empty. It's an invitation. Anyone who really knows you knows, when you speak, it's because you have something to say. And that, in a world of talk, is power. The question nobody asks, but you should answer. If you could erase one social expectation from your life, what would it be? The obligation to respond to messages instantly, as if your life were a chatbot. The pressure to post happy things, even when you're not. Guilt for not wanting to celebrate obligatory dates just because everyone else does. Judgment for preferring a night at home to a bullet, as if introversion were a defect. Write in the comments. Or not. The choice is yours. And that's exactly what it's about. The world is not ready for those who don't ask permission. When you stop chasing validation, two things happen. 1. People get confused. They don't know how to deal with people who don't depend on other people's eyes to feel complete. What do you mean you don't want me to like your photo? You don't want me to know that you exist. 2. The right people approach. Those who really value you don't care how many hours it took you to respond. They care about what you say when you finally speak. And here's the secret no one tells you. Those who criticize you for being selective are precisely those who most need you to be like everyone else. Because if you stop obeying the rules of the game, other people may realize that they can stop too. And that, my friend, is dangerous for those who profit from your anxiety. An exercise in freedom, for those who have the courage. Over the next 7 days, do the following. 1. Leave a message on scene for 24 hours before responding. The world will not end. 2. Don't post anything on the networks. Your real friends will still be your friends. 3. Say no to an invitation without explaining. You owe no satisfaction. 4. Spend 1 hour a day in complete silence. No music, no podcast, no notifications. You will hear things that noise drowns out. At the end of the week, ask yourself, what changed? What did I realize I didn't need as much? Warning, some will think you've changed. Others will call you difficult. Those who matter will understand you. In closing, an inconvenient truth. The world won't give you a trophy for not being hostage to other people's expectations. There is no medal for those who choose quality over quantity, or presence over performance. But here's what you get. Time. The most valuable resource of the 21st century. Authenticity. You stop acting for others and start living for yourself. Peace. Silence will stop being a void and will become a refuge. And at the end of the day, this is much more than 1,000 likes. Now tell me, when was the last time you broke a social rule just to preserve your sanity? And how did you feel afterwards? Comment here or not. I will understand. And if this text made sense to you, share it with those who are also tired of performing. The world needs more people who know how to be quiet. Until the next revolutionary break. Medium skin tone, raised fist, Milky Way.